Don't blame the house. 3 notorious murder homes. What is the fate of a house where an unspeakable act unfolds? The mass murder, subsequent alleged hauntings, and the house at the center of the events gained broader attention in J. Anson's book, The Amityville Horror, which is based on the months that the Lutz family spent in the disreputable home. The book was followed by a 1979 film adaptation and sequels. Today, the Lutz's accounts of spooky experiences are met with skepticism, with many suggesting they were a hoax. Still, rumors about the house's past have continued to churn to this day, including that the structure was built over a Shinnecock burial ground, and that a previous resident of the home, John Ketchum, was a Satan worshiper. Neither of these claims have been verified. Regardless of what may or may not have scared away the Lutz family, 112 Ocean Avenue has had many more residents, undergone renovations, and is occupied today. Records show that the home was last purchased in 2016 and sold for $850,000. No owners subsequent to the Lutz family have reported paranormal happenings. H. Holmes, The Murder Castle. When it comes to serial killers, the names Ted Bundy or Jack the Ripper are more likely to come to mind than H. Holmes, born Herman W. Mudgett. He changed his name for reasons that aren't quite clear. But, in the 19th century, Holmes may have been responsible for more murders than both Jack and Bundy combined. Early in his life, Holmes, who was said to have an anxious disposition, developed a fascination with human anatomy and pursued the study of medicine at the University of Michigan. In addition to having a fondness for dissecting bodies, he became a grave robber, selling cadavers to medical schools, and also sometimes using them to commit insurance fraud. It's difficult to determine when Holmes actually began killing, but historians have found that he left behind a cloud of suspicion everywhere he went. Though Holmes was married with a child, he abandoned his family in 1885, relocating to Chicago. Holmes took over a pharmacy business and had a 3-story building constructed nearby on West 63rd Street. The building's substantial size, it extended a full block, earned the nickname of the Holmes Castle within the community. That's where the Holmes saga truly began. Holmes has long been associated with the Chicago World's Fair, in part because of Erik Larson's book, Devil in the White City, a glittering spectacle that took place in 1893. It's believed that the influx of tourists may have supplied Holmes with his victims, mostly women he invited to stay at the castle, or those looking for employment. Despite what we now know about Holmes, it was his penchant for fraud that exposed his other proclivities. Holmes had paired up with associate Benjamin Pitezel and his wife, Carrie, for another money-making maneuver. Benjamin would fake his own death. Holmes would supply the cadaver, and all three would collect on insurance money. Only, Holmes murdered Benjamin with intent to collect all of the insurance money. He also murdered 3 of the Pitezel children, likely in an effort to silence potential witnesses to the fraud scheme. Their bodies were located in a cellar in Toronto, where Holmes had been renting a house. Widowed and suffering the loss of the children, Carrie confessed to police her own role in the scheme, and Holmes was taken into custody. After entering Holmes's castle to further investigate, police were horrified to learn that Holmes had constructed a labyrinth of depravity, complete with gas chambers, trapdoors, and chutes for dispatching bodies into a makeshift crematorium, Or so the story goes. In Adam Selzer's The True Story of the White City Devil, he exposes numerous falsehoods surrounding Holmes that have stood the test of time. For example, Holmes's only confirmed victims were the Peetsalls, his ex-wife, Minnie Williams, and her sister, Nanny, his mistress, Julia Connor, and her daughter, Pearl, and Emmeline Sigrand, a woman he hired as a stenographer. The legend of the devil in the White City, Selzer writes, is effectively a new American tall tale, and, like all the best tall tales, it sprang from a kernel of truth. There's no doubt that Holmes was a murderer, and that his methods likely included bludgeoning, suffocation, and chloroform poisoning. But the murder castle wasn't quite the chamber of horrors history chalks it up to be. It did have a somewhat unusual design, including a hidden staircase, an anteroom between the first and second floors, and a trap door. Those who constructed the building, however, were aware of these oddities, and the hidden space was likely used to hide stolen furniture more often than bodies. Holmes had a habit of launching dubious business ventures. In one case, he devised what he called a gas generator, which he claimed was capable of turning water into gas. This might be why the myth of the gas chambers originated. It's possible that Holmes burned victims in a factory he created for a glass-bending enterprise, which could explain why more corpses weren't located. Holmes confessed to killing 27 people, but he was a bona fide compulsive liar, and several of his supposed victims ended up being alive. The suggestion that Holmes killed up to 200 people likely stemmed from the era's yellow journalism and a book published in 1940, Gem of the Prairie, in which author Herbert Asbury fanned the flames of rumor and speculation. So, did Holmes kill 27 people? 200? The truth, as is the case with so many things, is likely somewhere in the middle. Holmes's great-great-grandson asserts that his distant relative and Jack the Ripper were one and the same. Many have questioned his argument, particularly since DNA has linked a different suspect to the killings. Holmes was hanged at the age of 34 on May 7, 1896, for the murder of Benjamin Pitezel. His other victims, however many there actually were, never received justice. In 1895, shortly after Holmes's arrest, arsonists set fire to the murder castle. It survived the assault, was repaired, and then converted into a storage space before being torn down in 1938. Now, in that spot stands the Inglewood Post Office building. It's a bit of an anticlimactic afterlife for a notorious murder house. But sometimes, a house is just a house, or post office, as the case may be. More often than not, a murder house goes on to hold new, cherished memories and banal moments for its next generation of residents. As physicists tell us, and an unexpected comfort for us all, is this, perhaps energy remaining in the wake of pain, suffering, and injustice really can be, in fact, transformed.